Hey, so in February, I wanted to give you one tip per day, 28 days, 28 tips about how to live a more joyful, sugar-free life. And the first tip I have for you today is to work towards seeing sugar in a more neutral way rather than this kind of love-hate relationship a lot of us have with sugar. I love it, I hate it. So more neutral, more peaceful. Hey, I'm at the grocery store with tip number 2 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life, which is to re-evaluate your definition of food. What is actually food and what is sold to you as food? That's tip number 2. See you next time. Hey, here's tip number 3 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life, and that's to see sugar for what it is. No nutritional value, potentially ruining your health, and not a treat at all. Hey, here's tip number 4 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life, and that is to check the list of ingredients on products for hidden sugars or dubious ingredients, or better yet, to buy foods that don't even have a list of ingredients. See you next time. Hey, tip number 5 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to educate yourself as a consumer, because knowledge is power. And when we as consumers know the basics of human biology and metabolism and how foods affect us personally, then we're in a much more powerful position to make the choices that are right for us. See you next time. Tip number 6 for a more joyful, sugar-free life is to make the distinction between refined added sugars and naturally occurring sugars in real whole foods. It's the added sugars that you're better off avoiding. Hey, coming to you from a snowstorm to give you tip number 7 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life, and that is to have a look at your coping skills. We all have them. And do your coping skills include sugar? See you next time. Hey, tip number 8 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to think of the variety that exists in whole real foods. There's way more variety there than in highly processed, industrially prepared food products that are basically variations on 2 main ingredients, sugar and flour. See you next time. Hey, tip number 9 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to surround yourself with people who are like-minded and on the same path as you to living a more joyful, sugar-free life, and who get you. And that's what the After Sugar Club is there for. See you next time. Hey, tip number 10 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to train your taste buds to enjoy less and less sweetness, so that the less sweet tastes your taste buds have, the more you will develop tastes for other types of foods, and then you don't have to be running after sweet tastes all the time, and you may end up not needing or missing sugar anymore. See you next time. Hey, tip number 11 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is not to wait for a special occasion to cheat with sugar, but to make every day special, to do something to make you happy every day, and then you don't need to cheat with sugar. Hey, tip number 12 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life makes me think of episode 109 of the Life After Sugar podcast that's out today about how I broke up with chocolate. What I thought was impossible actually ended up being possible. And that is tip number 12 for you. Tip number 13 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to think about all the health issues that sugar causes, including extra weight and inflammation, diabetes, headaches, skin problems, all kinds of health issues that you don't have to bother with when you cut out sugar. See you next time. Hey, tip number 14 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to have a think about your relationship with sugar. Do you actually love sugar, or are you like me in the past where it was more like a dependency? Hey, here's tip number 15 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life. And that is to accept that living sugar-free or life after sugar is way more about you than it is about sugar. Hey, tip number 16 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to respect your hunger, and I mean real hunger, not just blood sugar spikes and crashes caused by sugar. Hey, tip number 17 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life, especially once you've cut sugar out of your life and you have more energy, less brain fog, no more aches and pains in your joints, you've lost those extra pounds, and your risk for getting all kinds of metabolic health issues goes right down, and you can really enjoy life. See you next time. Hey, tip number 18 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to remember that you have the power. It's your choice not to eat sugar, and for me, flour. It's not something you have to do. It's not something you can't do. It's totally your choice. See you next time. Hey, tip number 19 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to get inspiration as often as you can and to listen to other people's stories of how they're living their life after sugar. And the best place to do that is on the Life After Sugar podcast, out every Sunday. See you next time. Hey, tip number 20 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is if you think that sugar is everywhere, see if you can reframe that, because sugar isn't everywhere. It's just in processed foods, not in real foods. Hey, tip number 21 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to remember that it's never too late to start your life after sugar. Any age is the right age. See you next time. Hey, tip number 22 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to look after your gut health. First by cutting sugar and also by adding fermented probiotic foods and drinks to your diet, and I can teach you how. Hey, tip number 23 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to go talk to someone who's been there, done that, and is already living their joyful, sugar-free life. That's me. Talk to you soon. Bye. Hey, tip number 24 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to let yourself be imperfect. None of us is perfect. I'm not perfect either. And that's the perfect place to start in the After Sugar Club. Hey, tip 25 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to step out of the paradigm of needing to replace sugar with other sweet foods and instead look for ways to replace sugar by things you love to do and people you love to be with. See you soon. Hey, tip number 26 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is not to wait for the weekend or for a special occasion in order to treat yourself, but to find the little treats in life every day, and then you won't need sugar for treats. See you next time. Hey, tip number 27 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is to do like the After Sugar Club members and to be brave enough to be honest and vulnerable with yourself and with a group of people who get you, like in the After Sugar Club, so that you share how you're feeling, what your relationship is with sugar, and where you want to go, what your goals are. See you in the After Sugar Club. Hey, tip number 28 for living a more joyful, sugar-free life is consistency. If you make one small change every single day, either in your habits or your mindset, then in no time at all, you'll make huge leaps on your path to your life after sugar. And the best place to do that is in the After Sugar Club. Come join us. Hey, this is Netta from Life After Sugar, and I hope these 28 tips have been helpful for you. If you want more free resources, then subscribe to this YouTube channel and also check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page, Instagram account and TikTok account, and go to aftersugarclub.com and download your free resources there. And to get personal support and customized accountability, come and join the After Sugar Club. Go to aftersugarclub.com and click on the big green button, Join the Club.